everyone, my name is Kelly Rose. This is my case studies assignment for Module 14. Section 1, all about the case. The who in this situation is Mr. Sample, who is the principal, Mrs. Lynn, who is the library media specialist, and then Mrs. Brandon, who is the third grade teacher. As for what has happened, the school purchased computer software in which multiple copies were made for use in classrooms. Where did this take place? This took place in St. Regis, at St. Regis School, which is a K-8 school. It's in a very rural community. The kids that go into high school are bused to the nearby city, 25 miles away. There's not very much in this town. It's very small. The problem in this situation is that Mrs. Brandon, the third grade teacher, believes a copyright infringement has been made by Mrs. Lynn and has brought it to the attention of Mr. Sample, the principal. There are some legal and ethical issues with this situation. Obviously, the legal issues are that this is copyright infringement, which can result in fines up to $150,000 for each infringement, and also jail time. There are a few ethical issues with this. The producer that created this software should be getting paid for each copy of the software that's been made. And the fact that Mrs. Lynn doesn't see a problem with her actions and just assumes everyone else does it, so it's okay for her to do it. And if Mr. Sample were to allow teachers to keep using the software in this classroom, he would also be in violation of the law. The issue, the main issue that I feel this situation entails is that the library specialist, Mrs. Lynn, has created multiple copies of a computer software committing several acts of copyright infringement. The facts. The people in the situation are Mr. Sample, Mrs. Lynn, Mrs. Brandon, and then also the other building teachers that are using the software. Where it takes place at St. Regis School, it's located in a rural area. It has approximately 420 students for all grades K-8, which means that there's only 2 teachers per grade level. The program, it is a public school. 1 license was bought for the software program by the PTA for school fundraisers. The software was meant to only be used in the computer lab for on their assigned times. A review. Mrs. Lynn does not understand her wrongdoing and would like to continue making copies of the software. Mr. Sample has been made aware of the copyright infringement and could be liable if he doesn't do anything about it. Mrs. Brandon risks losing relationships with veteran teachers as she does not agree with making copies of the software. Other staff and supervisors have not been made aware of this situation. Some teachers may be completely innocent, not knowing that they're breaking a law by using the software. The school could lose state funding if caught, and the school will definitely face some penalties if it is caught with this copyright issue. Some options and their consequences. One option would be to continue using the copyrighted materials. Some consequences of doing that would be that the school would lose funding, risk of a copyright lawsuit, and obviously teachers being fired. Possible, like Mrs. Lynn could have jail time or have a major fine she has to pay. Another option would be to destroy the copyright materials and just move on. A consequence of this option would be that it could cause friction among teachers who disagree. There are many teachers that are enjoying using the software in their classroom and they disagree with getting rid of it. So it could cause, some arguments and discussions to take place. And another option would be to just purchase more copyrights for the materials, going to the producer of the software and asking for more copyrights and paying for those copyrights. This does cost money though, and as it states in the case, sorry about that. As it states in the case, the school does not have a lot of money. It's only getting money from a few fundraisers here and there throughout the school year. So this may not be even an option for them at this point. I did make a note here, no matter the choice, educating your staff about copyright policies, school policies, and the consequences of not following them would be a major step in solving this issue. like I said, some teachers may not even know that they are violating a copyright law, and in knowing that, I feel like that would help them in making their decision and enticing them to make the right decision of getting rid of the software. Evaluating my options. The first option, in choosing to keep the copyright materials, you run the risk of a lawsuit, loss of funding, or jail time for people involved. However, if you're not caught, the software would be useful for all teachers to have. I'm just not sure it's worth the risk. For option 2, deleting the copyright material would make many of the teachers upset, including Mrs. Lynn and the PTA. However, this would prevent a lawsuit and other consequences of copyright infringement. Option 3 is choosing to purchase the copyrights for the copied materials. And this would allow teachers to continue using the software. The downfall would be that it costs a lot of money that the school may not have. In my opinion, the best option would be to destroy all the copies of the copyrighted materials. There are many reasons I think this. This would ensure that a lawsuit would not ensue. I believe that it is the ethical thing to do. And holding a staff meeting explaining schools' technology policies and laws against copyright infringement would ensure that this does not happen again in the future. Implementing my decision. Here are some steps that I would take in implementing my decision to destroy all the copies of the copyrighted material. The first thing I would do would be to hold a meeting with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA president discussing my decisions and the reasons why, reviewing the copyright infringement laws with them, and just explaining that the risk is definitely not worth the reward. The next thing I would do would to hold a staff meeting, reviewing the school, state, and federal copyright laws with staff, and making sure they understand how serious they are, and also providing more examples of common ways that, especially in education, that these copyright laws can be violated, to ensure that they aren't doing these things already. Then I would collect all the copies of the copyrighted software and destroy them. And then finally, I would also want to try to help organize and plan a fundraising opportunity to raise more money, hoping that possibly we could purchase more copyrights in the future, and or more software to use in the computer lab. Thank you for listening.